What is going on, boys and girls? Welcome back to the show, the podcast, episode 46, if you're keeping count. And today, really special guest, we have good old Paul Sporer here to talk about all things Tigers, sometimes good, sometimes bad, roster updates, and the like. So, Sporer, thank you so much for being here. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. How are you?
I'm doing well. It is a hot, muggy, balmy day in Baltimore, but we're doing great.
We've been getting a lot of the mugginess too here in Austin, Texas, which is not normal. We're usually a bit drier, but the rain has not stopped and it's so nasty.
Yeah, we had pretty much most of last week was rain or thunderstorms in the forecast, and my Comcast internet was, reflective of that, in and out constantly. But yeah, we never lost anything on a stream, and I'm able to record today, even though my Wi-Fi was literally down this morning. So we're doing great.
Hey, that's good. Good rebound there.
So listeners of the show, you guys know how this works when I have a guest. We usually talk at the very end of the show about that person's favorite team and cards they'd like to see. We're going to switch up the order a little bit. I want to end the show with Paul talking about how he goes about predicting his roster updates, because that's going to be a nice chunky conversation. But what we're going to start with, we're going to have some general announcements, as you all know. Then we're going to go straight to this massive Team Affinity drop that came today. And my God, it is spicy. They might have accidentally revealed the best card ever assembled in MLB The Show. No one quite knows how to get it just yet, but I'm staring at it on the screen next to me, and it's not even real. I don't even know what it is. But first of all, guys, we have merch now. It's going to be in the comments, in the YouTube comments. It's on my Twitter. If you like t-shirts or a cool mug that says the show, the podcast, there is merch. So go there. Also, last announcement. I was able to make World Series yesterday, and my Lord has ranked been an absolute disaster. So I'm very happy to not touch that again for several weeks. Just PSA to everybody, stay out of ranked seasons forever. But now we're not going to ignore Paul anymore. He's here, and we're going to go straight to Team Affinity 3. Your general thoughts, man. This might be one of the best content drops we've ever gotten.
Yeah, arguably the best ever. It's truly incredible how good these cards are. They really lived up to the hype. I mean, there's only one that I would consider kind of bad, and it's the Craig Kimbrell, and it's because of his pitch mix. He's only got the 2 fastballs and the curveball, and I just don't really think that that's particularly usable. And so that's the only one that I look at and I'm like, okay, that's legitimately bad. But otherwise, I love this set. It's brilliant. I was already in there. I did all the exchanges and collections to get 55% on every single one.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it here on the screen next to me. And so I predicted 97 to 99s. I think that's what a lot of people kind of predicted. We have 95 to 99. And I kind of like that because let's be honest here. Gregory Soto from the Tigers, I don't mean to, crap on your guy, would not have been an all-star had the Tigers not had to have one.
True, but I think he's one of the best ones out there.
That was my next point. He's actually legitimately very good, very usable. Any lefty's good, but he throws some absolute heat.
Yeah, that's the thing. He throws big heat, an outlier sinker, a good slider. So he has the meta pitches. Now, be careful with that changeup, though. It has 25 control.
Yeah, don't throw it.
So you do not, he's really a 3-pitch guy. So I'm happy about him. I think it's a pretty good card for the Tigers to get, good lefty to put in your bullpen. Throw that changeup so sparingly, if at all. But otherwise, I think it's a very good card. I would actually rate him over Hader personally, based on the sinker and how much of a meta pitch that is. So yeah, like I'm above the rule. Like I'm beyond having the one team gets all. I don't think that it has to be like that. It doesn't bother me, but I don't need it. Even as a fan of a team that only sends an all-star because of that reason. But I think that was more for like back in the day before the internet, when you didn't get to see players from every team.
Exactly.
And it made more sense to do it. Nowadays, in the internet age, I think you could really just take the best players and not have to worry about finagling somebody in there, because he's clearly not at the same caliber as all the other guys.
And in fairness, though, baseball is the type of game where very clearly a team sport, But you could have a Brian Reynolds on the Pirates who's hitting the cover off the ball. And even though his team is horrible, he's great. So I think even if you got rid of that mandate, 25 out of the 30 teams would be represented in the All-Star game, maybe even all 30 in some years. Like, it would happen naturally.
Yep, I totally agree. Like, there would just be a couple guys that maybe wouldn't be in, but for the most part, yeah, it would still be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And going back to your note on Soto being better than Hader, I completely agree. The sinker obviously being meta, that helps. I just feel as if even with the changeup, Hader is so readable. And I personally don't struggle to hit him. I know some people do. That's the beauty of this game. Everybody's got different strengths and weaknesses, but I just don't see Hader. This card is not much better than the live series card. His hits per nine, obviously juiced up, a couple little things here and there. Gregory Soto's card is disgusting. So once you get him, use that card.
Well, and another thing is because he's been around for a while, Hader has, and is a popular card, people are really starting to see him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Dellin Betances used to be like a go-to for everybody, even like a live series silver was like a BR god. Yeah. He has now completely fallen out of favor because people have seen him so much. Like, he's not difficult. Now, maybe the diamond will be kind of decent this year, but nobody even uses his bronze in BR. I think Hader isn't quite there yet, but he's on the second end of his life cycle as far as being an automatic go-to card. You're still going to run into people who can't hit him to save their lives, but a lot of average and above average folks or better can definitely crush Hader no matter what. And
this is somewhat of a tangent here, but that's why I'm excited for Joe Nathan to be back in the game this year. Mm-hmm. It's a reliever whose delivery we haven't seen in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, maybe even more than that. I'm excited to see his 99 that he'll inevitably get.
And he's like a 4-5 pitch type of guy too.
Yeah.
So deep arsenal, new delivery. I totally agree with that. Yes. I'm very excited for that.
Going back to the rest of Team Affinity 3, I guess most of the selections probably are not surprising. One of the ones I was surprised at was Cronenworth over the Tatis for obvious reasons. Maybe it's just because they think Tatis will get the finest. I understand that line of thinking as well. Were there any big surprises for you, though?
I'm a huge Cronenworth fan, by the way, so I was excited that he got the card. But no, nobody really jumped out as like, oh my gosh, how did he get it? Everything really seemed to track there. You know, I'm glad they went Zunino and not Joey Wendell. No offense to Joey Wendell, but who wants to use a Wendell card? Meanwhile, Zunino's got double 125s on his power, which is incredible. But yeah, the player selections all tracked pretty much what I would have expected, and made good sense to me. So I'm happy with how they went there.
And I like what they did. They spread it around. So like a Chris Taylor would never get a high diamond. Nice opportunity to get him one. Honestly, he's got a really sweet little swing. I like Chris Taylor.
I do too.
Like you mentioned, Kimbrel, he's an obvious choice, but they didn't do him any favors with this card. If people use him, not a great idea, but you know, to each their own. I'm excited to have this 98 Trey Turner. I think you pair him with, like, I use the new Wander Franco at short. Actually, I use him at second because I have Mauricio at short, but I think that's going to flip flop because Trey Turner is going to be an absolute beast. So he might be an instant plug into the lineup.
I completely agree with that. I love Trey Turner cards. They're always a little bit slept on by the overall general public because his power usually isn't there, but his swing has always been clean and the ball just jumps off his bat. And even with the center field defense not necessarily being top rated, the speed makes up for that. And that's the beauty. When you have a speedy center fielder, even if their fielding and reaction ratings aren't as good as you might like, the speed bridges that gap. So don't be afraid to even use him there if your infield is locked up. But for me, I'm probably going to put him at second base, and then his defense is less of an issue because you can afford to have a little bit of a lesser guy at second base.
Yeah, then of course you use the parallel system, and you can
exactly,
you know, get him up there a little bit. Unfortunately, you play him. Let's say you play him at shortstop where he's supposed to be. He starts at a 72, so he's only going to get up to that silver badge. It won't kill you, won't help you a ton, but it won't kill you. Second base, I think, is the spot though. His arm is not fantastic. Center field, his arm is going to hurt. The speed's going to help, but the arm's going to hurt. So I do think second's probably the place to be. And he's got a really good swing. I've always loved his swing. You know, I'm looking at him on the screen right now. He's next to Nicholas Castellanos, who I think might even be arguably the best card that they dropped. And I know his defense. You talk about bad defense. It's shit. It's really shit. But That swing is his 99 that they gave us back last year was one of my favorite cards to use.
Oh man.
Who do you think maybe some of these guys that might be slept on as people who, maybe people don't think will be good, but they're actually great?
So one guy who's always slept on for the same power reason I mentioned with Turner is Michael Brantley cards. I find they always play very well.
Such a beautiful, smooth swing.
Exactly. So the ball jumps off his bat, and I think you'll find more power there than you would expect. I think Jake Cronenworth, enter the Crone zone, baby. I love Cronenworth cards. I got one events game in with the new guys, and he crushed a 3-run. Now it's off a common, so I don't want to use that as the reason, but it was nice to go yard with him instantly. You mentioned Chris Taylor. Anyone who's been playing for a long time probably remembers that 2017 Gold Player of the Month, Chris Taylor. That card was godly. His postseason one was great last year. And then Eduardo Escobar is a guy I've been loving. Live series, specialty, whatever you got. His live series is always a good BR card. He has a Topps Now this year that's been very good. A Topps Now 2 years ago that was excellent. And now we get this card for him representing the Diamondbacks. And I think it will be fantastic. So I love Eduardo Escobar as well.
I will say on the Escobar front, I'm going to puff out my chest on veteran difficulty here very quickly. I did the NL West missions, and you needed 6 hits in 3 games, and all 6 of my hits were home runs with that card. Again,
oh my gosh.
Veteran, Coors Field, the pitchers
still
are terrible.
Fun to rake, though. It's
his
still fun to
is,
absolutely crush.
His swing is so pretty.
It's really
so pretty. One thing, a couple interesting things to note, like Nelson Cruz just got a 93, and here he is with a 97. Actually, I think the 93 has better stats against lefties, so you might just want to use the 93.
True.
This one's 125 contact left and 114 power left on his new 97. I think the 93 had a little higher power, but I could be wrong.
With the 90, I don't have the 93 yet because I've been slacking on my dailies. I would imagine since it's Seattle, his defense would be a little bit better too.
Defense he was younger, better, and the speed is like 52 or something like that.
So there you go. Yeah, you might just use the awards one, but you'll never go wrong with a Cruz, especially if you're just putting him on the bench to come out and crush. But I agree. I think maybe the awards might be the better play there.
And very quickly, I just want to go through this first page of players. These are the ones that are highest rated. Cedric Mullins, he's going to be a legend guy. I don't play legend because once I make World Series, I hit a hard stop. I don't want to be frustrated. But high contact, sweet swing, speed. His arm is worse than Johnny Damon in the heyday of his career.
It really is.
It's a 50 arm. So you're going to
throw him in left.
Yeah. But yeah, his bat will be good. Rafael Devers, they gave him 75 fielding.
That's really clean because he's always been a great hitter, and the defense has been like, oh, can I afford his defense? Now I think you can.
Yeah, Aaron Judge.
Speaking of defense,
99 fielding, 90 arm, 99 accuracy, 99 reaction. And I'm a Yankee fan, and people hate on Judge. He deserves that 100%.
I adore Judge.
I will say, little disappointed in the contact against Wright being an 89. I'm sure it's reflective in his splits. Unfortunately, you're not going to see Judge a lot. His strike zone's too big. His swing's a little long. I wish he was usable because I love Aaron Judge. I have a personal collection of his baseball cards, but I just don't think you're going to use him.
It is a situation, and it's the very tall player models and the very short player models. It's a personal preference thing. Like, I don't do well with the Altuve and Yogi Berra when we had him. I am okay with the Stantons and Judges, the super tall guys, but you have to know your own personal preference. So if you don't like using those player types, don't force it.
We have Jose Ramirez, always glitchy. He's got a very weird separation of attributes here. I don't know if you looked at them yet, but we're looking at 80 contact right, 103 contact left, which is reasonable. But now he's got more power versus right, maxed 125, and then only 73 power left. So a weird card. Again, glitchy swing, though, it might not matter. He might just be just fine.
He's one of my favorite players in the game. That was one of my go-tos. I got Soto and Ramirez first, and I love him. So, yeah, I honestly didn't know the ratings, even though I'd looked at the card, because I don't care when it comes to Jose Ramirez. I will use any Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, we won't spend a ton of time talking about Kevin Gausman. He's a 98. I will say you're probably not going to see him, but he felt so smooth to pitch with in those moments. Just
I'm gonna have to
very
try him out.
Smooth.
They lengthened his arsenal too. He got 5 pitches. Like, he's not a deep arsenal guy in real life, but if they got him with these 5 pitches here, I think he's one to keep an eye on. I might use him as a sneak tip.
He might be really, really good as like an emergency guy if you need some long relief. 111 stamina, 114 hits per 9. I mean, he doesn't have the velo or the control. Breaks pretty good. You know, you could play with him, I think.
Yeah, I think it's at least worth a shot.
Exactly. Matt Olson just completely entered the stratosphere of the top first baseman in the game. He's now a top 3 guy.
I adore him. I adore all of his cards.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And yeah, he's got 54 arm, but you're not going to play him in right field, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly, because that speed you don't really want to have out there anyway. So yeah, don't worry about that. Just play him at first base or off your bench if you have somebody else. But Matt Olson cards crush.
Yeah. Now I'm looking at Jacob deGrom. I haven't actually compared it to live series. The pitching stats don't look much different because I don't think they could have been. However, and I know hitting stats for pitchers don't factor into the overall, so clearly they toyed with him a little bit. The dude rakes, and that's not an exaggeration. 63 contact right, 72 contact left, 53 power right, 43 power left, and 69 power clutch. 69 clutch. Very nice. So,
so nice.
What can we say about this guy? He's in every rotation.
It has to be. And frankly, I mean, if you only have the live series, that's fine. Go ahead and use him for now. But once you get this, I mean, either or if you don't have the live series yet, you're still working on your collection, get this one, this All-Star deGrom, and you will be perfectly fine. deGrom is playable on every level this year. Doesn't matter if you are a legend stud at the top end, he can handle anybody, or if you are down in the middle tiers, deGrom is for everybody this year, and he's a god.
And I will say this pro tip with deGrom. So I'm looking at his controls right now. They're stupid. 99 control on the fastball, as he should have. Yes. 97 on the slider, incredible. 87 on the changeup, 82 on the curve, 85 on the 2-seam. My gripe with this card is that they did not turn one of these pitches into a cutter because his slider against lefties is basically a cutter.
True. That's actually fair, yeah.
The changeup with deGrom, though, I don't think you should throw it because people are going to be so late on that fastball. And you talk about speeding bats up. Throwing that changeup low in the zone is an easy way for a player who's late on that fastball to literally just drop the barrel. And if you catch a changeup low, it's going to be hit hard. So
that's a great call.
Similar to Soto, except, deGrom obviously has more control. But similar to Soto, don't overuse that changeup. I don't see how that's an effective way to use him.
I think that's a really sharp call out for the exact reason that you're saying, especially if you happen to be on Hall of Famer legend and you're just gassing them to death with that fastball. You don't want to give them any sort of leverage back by bringing in that changeup. Plus, a lot of people hit those low pitches. It's a big power zone this year in the game. Yeah, I'd say don't do it. Maybe sneak it up high so they see like a high changeup is not usually something you ever want to throw.
Up and away, like roll it over.
Exactly. An offbeat pitch, that might be the only way to use it, but don't do a normal down changeup that you would normally throw, because I think you will speed folks bats up and you could see it hit 420 feet the other way.
The only way I see a low changeup working is if you spike it 58 feet. And because of his control, you could probably feel pretty reassured that you're going to spike it. But again, it all depends on which pitching method you use, how comfortable you are with that pitching method. I will say normally with a 5-pitch mix, you want to mix it up. Let's call deGrom's like a 4.5 pitch mix, because I think that's fair. Either way, disgusting card. Not even, no question. Disgusting.
He's so filthy. I love him.
And then lastly here, this Shohei Ohtani. We knew we were getting it.
It's so pornographic.
I can't even hit the 85 or 86, whatever he is now.
Same.
So he's a 99. Dude throws 4-seam splitter, slider, cutter, curveball. It's the same as his live series mix.
It's
scary. And we don't even have to talk about the pitching. The hitting stats, he's got 125 power versus both sides.
Absolute fire. And this is what we want, right? This is exactly what we want. And it's incredible. It's incredible how good he is, how good Ohtani is. And they're really trying to make that into the game so that we can experience his true greatness. And I applaud them. They continue to put out better and better Ohtani cards. I imagine it's going to be collect all 30 All-Stars. That
Probably.
seems like the most reasonable way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to get that card. I'm gonna be working hard.
And if I just might say, holy shit, I just noticed he has 91 speed.
Yes.
So, I mean, God almighty.
He's absurd.
And he's a starting pitcher. That's important to note. The previous cards we've gotten, one of them was the monthly awards was a right fielder or a left fielder. His live series is a starter. This card's a starter. So just know that you cannot play him in the field unless you do some hijinks and stuff.
And that's probably like the next frontier for them, is to try to figure out how to make it a card that can kind of go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think he should have 2 live series cards.
I'd actually be okay with that. I really would. Just whatever they can do to make it so that, you can kind of maneuver him around like that. I tell you what, though, I've started drafting his live series in BR and then just leading him off when I pitch him.
Makes a ton of sense.
Usually I don't draft diamond starters, but why wouldn't I when he's actually a diamond hitter as well? So I have no problem doing it now.
Mm-hmm. And, content on the whole, specifically in July, has just been like Kyle Schwarber is maybe the best hitting card they've ever put together just because of his swing. Last year's Juan Soto, the finest Cody Bellinger, last year's awards, Mike Trout, obviously all in that same discussion. But this Kyle Schwarber is end game catcher against lefties, righties, switch pitchers, doesn't matter.
Yeah, especially because they just ignored reality against lefties.
As they should have.
Which is fine. It just makes it harder to predict things, but I don't really care because there's no value in predicting. It'd be one thing if we were trying to, if there was like a way to invest in something to parlay off of player of the month, but there isn't. Whenever we're guessing player of the month players, it's just a guess for fun. Mm-hmm. So I didn't predict him for Lightning because I saw what he did against lefties and I didn't think Schwarber would get it. They decided to ignore that reality, juice him up, and I'm fine with it. It makes the game better. It's more fun. Doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, there's 2 things to note on that. One, completely agree. It's a video game. Let's have some fun. He was arguably the best hitter in the league over the course of the month. Let's make him look like that. Secondly, it's like, well, you didn't do that with Jesse Winker. And I know his month paled in comparison to Kyle Schwarber's, but Kyle can't hit lefties. Jesse can't hit lefties. You reflected it in Winker's card, not in this one. So it's a weird dichotomy there.
Exactly. And that's kind of the part of like, that's where I'm like, I don't understand. And so that's why when I'm in my stream and they say, who do you think is going to get? I was like, I don't know. I don't care to guess. It's not, I'm not trying to be rude to anybody. It's like, and this just furthers my lack of caring about guessing because they're not going to adhere to real life. And that's fine. Make badass player of the month cards, but I'm not going to try to guess who you're going to go for.
Yeah. And there are some people who I've seen on Twitter or in my chat or in other places just saying, why is Kyle Schwarber a catcher? They might have a legitimate gripe, but let me say this. So I don't know the last time Schwarber caught an inning.
2019.
2019. Probably didn't catch well or a ton.
It was only 1 inning, but it fits what they do, which is 3 years is what they base the card off of for live series. So that still fits. We should lose it next year. Now, I know people don't want to, but I think to keep accuracy, we should lose that catcher eligibility next year because he's not going to come back and catch this year, especially with the injury that he had. So since it's on live series, that's fine, but it has to be in that 3-year window. Yeah. And hey, why argue it? It gives us a fun catcher out of nowhere. I'm here for it.
It lets us play Mookie Betts at second. It lets us play, Jimmy Fox during his career was a catcher a little bit. I think it might've been you who tweeted this in regards to this discussion, but if we get a Hank Aaron that plays second base, that might be some fun.
So yeah, this was discovered recently. People are kind of looking it over. Now the rule seems to be on like a SIG or an awards type of card. They have to be kind of a primary there. And he never really had a primary season. The reason we advocated so hard for Fox at catcher is because he had seasons where he was a primary catcher. He got moved off when Mickey Cochran came into the picture because he was an amazing catcher and Fox was just okay. So that made more sense. As far as the Hank Aaron goes, we're probably not going to get it on any of his cards unless they make a specific 1955 card, which, hey, I'm here for, even though it'd be kind of a medium diamond. Just putting Hank Aaron at second would be great because I love Hank Aaron cards. I don't know how you've done with them, but I've done extremely well. So I would love that personally.
I truthfully haven't used them a ton. I know the most recent one they dropped is juiced against lefties, and I imagine his full-blown 99 card will look similar to that, just with right-handed stats or attributes rather being boosted as well. I know people love them, so I'm excited to get using them. The way my outfield looks now, I understand I'm married to the guys I've been using for a long time, but Mike Trout live series is incredible. Byron Buxton's one of my favorite cards in the game, and Jason Dominguez, uneffing believable. Jason Dominguez is. So
that's a brilliant outfield, by the way. Nobody's getting anything down in the gaps against you more often than not.
Not a single person. So, I mean, and that's the type of outfield I'm comfortable using for a while. Just because a 99 drops out, especially this year with the parallel system, I don't feel pigeonholed into having to take a lower player out to get the 99 in the lineup.
That's the thing too. People need to play the cards that they're good with. I think too often people change just for change sake. And I like to mix it up. Don't get me wrong. I'm somebody who advocates turning over your lineup and having fun with it, but not to the detriment of my performance. So if I do make a change to somebody and I end up not doing well, then I'm going to go back to the guy in question that I have 400 great plate appearances with. And I think people should be more open to just sticking with what works, as opposed to maybe changing to a card that you're not as good with.
Excellent point. And just to transition now, we're going to take a quick break in a couple minutes to talk just about sponsors and things like that. But like I said in the beginning, I do want to talk Tigers before the break, switch it up a little bit, in honor of the Switch It Up event that got me Jason Dominguez. So the Tigers, it's can be rough. So I apologize for that. I remember vividly one time Mike Maroth one-hitting the Yankees in Comerica. I was like 2006. I don't know, or whenever it was. I don't know why it sticks out in my head. Those are one of the memories I have of the Tigers. But I don't think we want him in the game. No. Maybe you do. But
I don't. No offense to him.
I'd love a Maglio Ordonez. I mean, I don't know who you're interested in. What would you like?
That was going to be the number one that I said when you suggested that we were going to talk about this. Maglio's right there. I'm going to have to say Lou Whitaker too, because we've had Trammell. We got to get the double play combo. They really should be together the way they were for so many years in Detroit. So I think they fit together, but Maglio would be amazing. You want to go a bit more old school. Hank Greenberg would be devastating as far as power. He'd be awesome, I believe. Trying to think of some other guys that I think would be fun. This is kind of a throwback name that people might not be that familiar with, but he did win an MVP, which in the 80s, they were voting pitchers for MVP way too often, especially relief pitchers. And Willie Hernandez won one in 1984. He had no business winning the MVP. It was very stupid, but he did win an MVP. And he was one of those relievers back in the day before relievers were just one inning guys. So he threw 140 innings in 80 appearances.
My Lord.
So the stamina would be incredible on that, with great per nines. So I think Willie Hernandez would be really fun. And this has just always been one of my favorite names. I watched him growing up as a kid. Chet Lemon is just a cool name.
Wasn't he a manager at one point?
I don't know.
Oh, no, that might have been. Was there another Don Lemon?
There's a Bob Lemon. Don Lemon is the guy on CNN.
It's not him.
The broadcaster.
Bob Lemon might have been it. Yeah.
So it might have been Bob Lemon, but Chet Lemon, he wouldn't have like a 99. I don't think there's a 99 Chet Lemon out there, but I think there'd be some decent diamond level cards. He was just a really fun player for the White Sox and Tigers. And it's just a cool name. Chet Lemon is a unquestionably cool name. So those are some guys that I'd really like to see coming from the Tigers. Throw in Norm Cash as well. Kind of a lesser Hank Greenberg, a lot of power, a lot of fun for him too.
Yeah. A couple of Tigers guys I, had just been thinking of. And this is mostly because this era that I watched them and watched the Yankees is, the 90s and 2000s. So they do some weird stuff with players sometimes. Like we got a random Steve Bedrosian last year as a gold and never saw him again. Give me a gold Brandon Inge. That might be fun.
Okay,
he'll play every position.
Yes, including catcher.
Yeah. Jeremy Bonderman stuck around far longer than he probably should have. I don't know if he ever had a season worth giving him any credence for.
He did. I would say the 2006 season, that breakout season that we had, where we were major underdogs to your beloved Yankees, and we ended up rolling them, which was unexpected, but amazing. That was a really good season for Bonderman. Probably his only, what I would say, good season. Other than that, he was kind of average-ish. In that same era, by the way, I didn't mention Carlos Guillen, who I think would be a lot of fun.
Yes.
You know, not an elite defender, but like a power with a little bit of speed type of guy. Great average. He'd have hella good contact. So I think, Carlos Guillen would be a lot of fun too.
He reminds me, like, attribute wise, if you were to spread it out, kind of like a Yuli Gurriel type of high contact, decent enough power, not good fielding though.
Yeah, exactly. And a switch hitter.
Yeah.
So you throw that in there, give him a little,
too.
Yes, third base, second base, in addition to his shortstop. And he had a little left field in there too. So there's some cards out there that could have a bunch of different positions. I think Guillen would be a particularly fun gold and silver BR type. And I'm obsessed with like those mid-tier, like the cards that they have in those BR packs now, those silvers and golds. I was banging the drums so hard for them to bring back gold and silver flashbacks and legends, and they exceeded my expectations. I couldn't have even fathomed how good this was going to be. And I think guys like Carlos Guillen, Placido Polanco, Brandon Inge, those would be some fun. Bobby Higginson would be some fun Tigers who would fit particularly well in that realm.
And the very last Tiger I want to mention, I think the whole world's been asking for this for years. When are we getting Victor Martinez back? Because I need this man. I need this. I don't care. I don't care if he has 52 defense and 40 arm strength. I don't care.
Doesn't matter. Because he hits so well, you're willing to give up a few stolen bases on the base pads there. And, you know, he was in the game when catcher blocking was a disaster. So it was exacerbated by the fact that he was bad. It's much better now. So even his mediocre defense, you wouldn't be giving up a million pass balls. Everyone would steal on you, but you wouldn't be giving up many pass balls. And he dominated. Switch hitter, brilliant hitter. I want Victor Martinez back ASAP. He just retired, a couple years ago. Now, there is no cutoff period. I know there's this notion in the community that they have to wait 5 years, like the Hall of Fame. No, if SDS can get the rights the next year, they'll do it. So he retired after 18. So I think any day now, if they're working to get him, I don't see why he can't be in the game soon. That they know that we love the 2000s and 90s era legends. I think they know how much the community loves Victor Martinez. They're always listening. SDS is always on the pulse of what the community loves. Believe me, I think they're working on getting Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer, Victor Martinez,
Justin
maybe
Morneau, those guys.
Justin Morneau, maybe even Beltran back. I know his reputation is a little sullied with the cheating scandal, but maybe they're even working to get him back in the game sooner than later. So yeah, I would love Victor Martinez. That's a great call out.
So let's end half one of the show on that note. Really quickly, we're going to hear from our friends. We have Thrive Fantasy and Dugout Creative as always. So daily fantasy sports, you know the big guys. Here's Thrive Fantasy. But this is based around player props. Thrive Fantasy has eliminated the need to do countless hours of research like those other DFS apps because it only asks you about the top tier athletes in a respective sport. To play MLB games on Thrive Fantasy, you choose 5 out of the 10 player prop options to build your lineup. Each prop has a fantasy point total associated with the over or under based on how likely it is to occur. The more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is. You rack up the most points possible, and you could win a share of the prize pool. If you're looking to play games and make a little bit of money during this MLB season, use promo code TheShowThePod. That's promo code TheShowThePod when you sign up for Thrive Fantasy today, and you'll receive an instant $20 bonus on your first deposit of $20 or more. Download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or Play Store, or by going online to www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today. And Dugout Creative, I made a joke last week that every time I read this ad, I actually read less and less of it. And we're basically not going to read it at all this time, because the thing with Dugout Creative is that they're turning the MLB The Show content creation community on its head and giving the best of the best merch. And I launched a Teespring merch store. Dugout Creative's got the good. So if you go to Dugout Creative and you use code kdjTV, you'll get 15% off your entire order. They're not just giving merch for content creators. Yes, you can go there for Dimmu and Swan and a variety of other streamers, but you could also go there and just get shirts for, like, if you're a Yankees fan, you get a nice hoodie that says Bronx on. They have some cool stuff for basically any city you can imagine. They also have NFL, NBA, the works. So dugoutcreative.com, kdjTV is your coupon code, 15% off your entire order. So Sporer, we are back, and the thing I am most interested in talking to you is about roster updates. So when I had first reached out to you, I don't know what it was at this point, 5 weeks ago or so. Nelson Cruz had just got downgraded to an 81. I remember this vividly because I play in a live series fantasy baseball league in MLB The Show, where it's a custom league and we only use live series players against each other. We had a draft and everything. It's very interesting. It's a lot of fun.
I love that. That's so sick.
It's incredible. However, Nelson Cruz, who is my DH, because we have a DH in this league, went from an 83 to an 81, despite having a 902 OPS. I understand there are many underlying factors and stats that go into this. You have to look beyond batting average. You have to look beyond all the traditional metrics that some people only look at, to, say it in a nice way. I just couldn't fathom how he went from an 83 to an 81. So what I want to come to you with is this question. Does MLB The Show do their roster updates, I say, the right way, in air quotes? Meaning, do you like their method? Do you wish there was more transparency with the method? Just kind of what are your overall thoughts on that?
I actually think that they do. They do it well. I'm very, very happy with how they do it. Like obviously I study this a lot. I've been doing it for several years now. It used to be a little bit easier because the offline roster, what I call the front page roster, the generic one that if you go to roster in the very beginning of the game, matched the DD one. They've since changed that, but I used to be able to go into the offline roster, do the upgrades I thought they deserved, and then I could see exactly what that would change their overall to. Now it's a bit more of a guessing game for me that, thankfully hasn't really hurt me in terms of making predictions, but it is a little tough because I am flying a little bit more blind. But no, while I do have some disagreements with them, I generally come out understanding where what they've decided to do with everything. And so, no, I think a lot of people who make critiques that you kind of see on Twitter, people yelling about this, that, and the other, a lot of people don't understand what makes up the upgrades is the problem. I'm not suggesting that that's you, by the way. I'm suggesting that,
I understand.
The people who are just, this guy has this ERA. Why did he get downgraded? Well, where's ERA on the card, my guy? It's not, it doesn't matter, right?
Exactly.
Like he has 9 wins. Okay. Where's the wins per 9 rating? Like, what are you talking about?
Wins per 9.
And the tough part is there aren't a lot of, front facing or public facing outlets that allow you to see splits over a particular time period. And that can be difficult then, because then you're seeing a composite OPS and you're wondering why somebody was downgraded if their OPS is really good. In the case of Cruz, when he got that severe downgrade, where did it come from? Primarily it came against righties, because in that time period, the studied time period would be May 26th till about June 9th for that June 11th update, because they kept it on a Wednesday. Or at least it's Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon. I think maybe a Wednesday day game. If somebody hits like 3 homers, they can kind of count that. But for the most part, I cap mine at Tuesday of the week of. So if you look at that time period, he had a 524 OPS against righties. Cruz did. It was really rough for him there. And to that point in the season, his power against lefties had been a little bit down versus what we normally expect from Cruz. So it made sense, even though his full season numbers were still pretty good. And I got to be honest, that downgrade was the final straw for me in terms of him going diamond. I no longer advocate for him to be an investment. I just don't think we're getting live series Nelson Cruz to diamond, barring just a unbelievable run, like a 1500 OPS for 3 weeks or something. But until something like that happens with his normal 9 something, even 1000 something OPSs, it's not going to be enough because he has no speed and his defense is terrible except for a decent arm. So yeah, it was shocking. And I think that was even a week that we had been talking about him, like maybe going up, because like you said, the studied period of time there, the OPS total was high because he was killing lefties, but he was devastatingly bad against righties in that period. So it made it look pretty bad there, and he got the downgrade. But I think that's the biggest disconnect between people understanding what goes into the updates and how they come out is the splits piece and not being able to find the splits data for the studied period of time. That, and then on the pitching side, people caring about ERA and wins, even though they don't mean anything toward an update.
The splits piece is very important. The other two things that are very important, one, to some, like you mentioned, the updates are based on the 2-week window and the entirety of the season. Like normally the entirety of the season should be indicative of a 2-week stretch because it helps tell the story of the full season. But if your dude's got a 1200 OPS the entire season, and then in that 2-week stretch as a 600 OPS, he's going to lose some hitting stats most likely.
Exactly. And there's another thing, like I always tell people, I say it's art and science. It's not just if you have X OPS, you are going to go up 6 points. It can't be, because the live series card is based on a 3-year run. The current year and the 2 years previously, or coming into the season, just the 3 years previously. And they're all weighted equally, which I did not know until last year. I thought they were actually weighted differently, but they are weighted equally. But the trajectory of how somebody maneuvers is important too, because people will say, so-and-so has an 840 OPS, and so does this other guy has an 860. Why is he a 74 overall and he is an 86? Okay, well, your first guy was a diamond 89 who's come down to an 86, and your second guy here is Cedric Mullins breaking out, who was a common. I mean, actually, I think he started as a bronze, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
How they get to where they are matters too, because 3 good months out of Cedric Mullins doesn't mean he's automatically a diamond on a par with Aaron Judge. It just doesn't make sense because he doesn't have the track record. So track record matters too. And then you talk about the whole season mattering. Sometimes they do a make good on a player, and we can't know that that's coming. Kendall Graveman went to gold in this last update. It wasn't based off of his last 2 weeks prior to that. He was fine during those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I didn't see him for an upgrade because I was like, oh, these last 2 weeks haven't been that good. But what they did was they looked at his full season and said, you know what, we're a little behind on him. Let's catch up. And so that's something that we can't always know. And that's kind of what makes it part of the art and science. As far as their transparency, I think they're transparent enough. It goes off the 2 weeks. I don't think they need, like, they don't owe us anything with it as far as like, they have to tell us everything that's coming. I think they rarely do those make goods. If they were doing those all the time and we had no idea who was going up, who was going down, that'd be frustrating.
Yeah.
But I feel like me and the others who do it in the community are pretty good at figuring it out. So that means I feel like they're transparent enough. If enough people can kind of have a good idea of where everybody's going, I say that the process is pretty open enough that they're not missing anything. So I'm not trying to be an SDS shill. I call them out when I think they're completely missing on something. In fact, I thought their Taiwan Walker downgrade was terrible.
So yeah.
And guess what? They changed it.
Yeah.
They changed it Friday afternoon because I was like, what? Why did he get downgraded? What happened? Like, oh, we messed that up. Sorry. And I don't know if you remember a Freddie Freeman one from a couple weeks ago. He had again gotten downgraded despite hitting like 400 against lefties. And I just sent a message. It wasn't rude. I just said, how did he get downgraded? He's hitting like 405 or whatever. Like, oh, we botched it. We messed up. So they're open to feedback. They're open to being kept honest. And we're all working together here. They want to upgrade cards, but they can't just make up a pure fiction, right?
Of
People
course,
want Jesse Winker to go diamond on his live series. Well, he doesn't hit lefties, and that's not the same as like a specialty card. Don't ever compare a specialty card to a live series card. They're vastly different. So anyway, a lot of rambling there, but I think they do well with the process. I think they're really open to hearing my feedback, which I really appreciate. They don't owe me that, but the fact that they even listen to me on anything really makes me feel like it's kind of a team effort with the whole community, because I take everyone's feedback. I can't do any of this alone. I need all my viewers and Discord folks to be helping me out on stuff. So I think it's kind of a community effort, and I love it.
One last note about upgrades, downgrades before we talk about a little more of your process of going about it. But guys, defense is important. Like Rafael Devers and Winker, apart from not really hitting lefties a ton, also won't go diamond because their defense is abysmal. I know Devers has improved. Red Sox fans, don't jump on me. However, 3-year averages, he's been dog shit in the field. So he's going to have to earn 125s across the board hitting to ever sniff diamond, same as Winker. And another thing that's important to remember, some positions weight defense rating differently than others.
Correct. That's
and
a big deal.
That's something that maybe isn't incredibly transparent. It's not the end of the world. I don't necessarily care, but like first baseman defense doesn't matter as much as like center field. Like it's just,
you're right.
Traditionally defensively important positions, you need to have the higher rating to get a higher overall card.
It's called there's something called the defensive spectrum. And if you just Google it, it'll take you to a Wikipedia page that will show you what the defensive spectrum is. It's basically a ranking of the defensive positions in order of importance. For me, I put catcher off to the side. It's its own thing, but then it's shortstop, second, center, third, right, left, first, and DH isn't really a position, and we don't care about it in MLB The Show anyway. So that's what it is. So basically your defensive thresholds are going to be higher in center field than they are in left. They're going to be higher at short than they are at third. And you're right that that's not very transparent, but you can play around with that in the front page roster. Now, it doesn't match up 1-to-1 as far as the overall goes with the DD roster, but you can go in and look at like Mark Canha, right? He needed to get changed. He was the center fielder for Oakland, but he wasn't playing center field this year. So you can go in and you can see that if you take the front page roster and you move him from center to first, he gets 6 points because his same ratings at first base are worth 6 more points. Now, that doesn't mean that if they moved him to first in DD, he would get the same 6 points, but you know that if they change him, he would get a boost.
Yes.
So you can play around with it. I do think they would be well served to maybe make a YouTube video or have a Twitch stream where they just go through all the ratings and give as much info as they can about how they play into everything, how they look at them, how they look at defense, and all that sort of stuff. I do have word, by the way, that the next roster update is going to include a defensive sweep. They do like one big defensive sweep every year right around the All-Star break because defense is very volatile. The worst defender can have a great defensive month and people are like, oh, his ratings are off the charts. That doesn't mean he's a good defender. He could have had like 2 big plays that completely raised his outs above average or whatever. So they have to wait for some sample to build up. So this month, this next update in 2 weeks is going to include a big defensive sweep. So keep an eye on some guys that maybe deserve a boost, like a Ryan McMahon. He might finally get his gold, even though he hasn't been hitting as well because he needs a position change and a defensive boost.
It's a very good point. So maybe sneaky investment after the TA3 craze dies down, because right now people are doing exchanges. You got to wait maybe 3-4 days, even a full week. Give that
a chance. It's a seller's market right now. You do not want to be in there buying anything off the market. You want to be selling all your extras and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. So I've got you for like 10 or 15 more minutes, and I want to be respectful of your time. So let's just go right into, if there is an easy way to explain your process of how you predict roster updates. I'm sure it's every single factor in the book. You look at everything, but you know, I've been in your streams when you do your, whatever it is, Wednesday night or Thursday night prediction. And like, you're giving us 45 players you think are going to change, but you really have already predicted maybe 70 guys. You don't give us the full list. So how do you go about looking at all, like you're probably looking at every single player. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I do go team by team every week, and it is a long process. But you know, that's part of why I do it. You know, there's sub benefits to it, and frankly, you know, let's just put it what it is. I'm paid to do it. Then, if there's subscribers doing it, that means I'm being paid to do it. So I have no problem putting in the time and the effort to do it. So I go team by team, usually the Sunday or Monday before a roster update is coming. So that means there's still going to be a few more days where things can change, but I want to get my first foundation of the guys that I think can be upgraded. And I look at that 2-week period that starts, say an update. This past one was July 9th, right? The one that we just got.
Yep.
So the next update period actually starts July 7th. So 7, 8, and 9 goes into this update period. So I'll go from July 7th to July 18th or 19th, because I'll start doing the data next week. I go team by team. I have certain filters that I look at for OPS and then for strikeout, walk, and hits per 9 rates. That brings the guys into the pool. Then I investigate deeper on the candidates that I think can get upgraded, and then I make my best guess at how many points they're going to go up. Usually when it's somebody going silver to gold, all I care about is if they go to 80. I don't care if I'm right about 80 to 80 or 81 or 82. If they're going from 79 into gold, that's all I care about.
So that's a huge tier jump. Yeah, it's semantics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all we care about is to get the tier jump to quick sell for 1,000 stuff. They go to 82. Yeah, maybe they are diamond capable, but we'll worry about that down the line.
Yeah.
So I go team by team. I get all those. I make my picks. I put that first list in the Discord. I let my folks in the Discord give their thoughts on it. Did you forget this guy? What about this guy? What about, we have conversations. I add a few guys, perhaps, if they did find some that I missed. And then I put the full list together for that Tuesday night. Then I cut that in half. I share half of it on YouTube and Twitch, and the other half is just subscriber only, so that there's still some benefit for them. So it's a long process, but I love doing it. I'm a fantasy baseball writer by trade. That's my job. So I'm already doing this sort of study anyway. And keeping my finger on the pulse of how players are doing is something that I'm going to do naturally. So why not turn it into something that I can also do on MLB The Show? I basically consider Diamond Dynasty fantasy baseball. You mentioned that you guys have a fantasy baseball league, basically. Same thing. Like, it's all fantasy baseball. We're creating fake teams based on real players, and we're having a blast with it. So I love doing it. It's stuff I'm going to do anyway. I might as well share it with folks because there's always room for people to get in and invest. I don't have to keep anything off to the side. I don't keep any sneak players. And plus my inventory is always seeable on my stream, visible on my stream. So it's not like I'm hiding somebody like, why do you have 112 of this guy? I'm like, oh no, don't look at him. No, I have 140 Tyler Mollies because I think he's going to go gold eventually. So I try to be as transparent as possible. And I want everybody to make stubs, make their investments, get your Chipper Jones, get your TA3 investments. It's all about everybody profiting because there's room for everybody here.
And if for some reason people don't already respect the work this man does, I want you to kind of gas yourself up here. So in recent memory, can you give me one example of a time when people were saying, this guy will never go up, and you predicted it correctly? And then on the opposite side, people said, this guy's definitely going diamond, gold, silver, whatever it is. And you were firm, absolutely not. And you were correct again.
Well, Winker and Peralta, Freddie Peralta, very recently, this past update, there was a lot of community love for him. And I'm not here to clown on anybody or anything, but I just didn't see it the way some other folks did, because his big issue is his walk rate. And in the last period, he had been walking guys again. So I was like, he's not going, even though a lot of the other update folks were saying, yes, he's going to go. And then Jesse Winker, I never had him going diamond. And early in the season, there was a lot of drum beating of he's going, he's going, he's going. And then as far as golds go, I'm trying to think of anybody recently that I had. A lot of the golds this past update were kind of obvious. I think I was a little early on Raisel Iglesias when other folks were maybe still a little bit behind on him. And even Joey Votto. Joey Votto eventually got there, but as recently as Wednesday night of last week, people were still getting him for 200 something stubs, because I didn't see him on a lot of other videos. So that was definitely somebody that we had. Raimel Tapia, Trevor Rogers, Pablo Lopez are a few other guys. So yeah, I definitely get some hits. I had Cedric Mullins going 74 to 80. And I thought he could get Adolis, as I was calling it, because that one was a surprise. I did not see Adolis Garcia going there.
What does he play? Center field? I was going to say it came out of left field, but
it came out of center field. That one was wild. So I thought Cedric could do the same. He didn't quite get there, but he did eventually get gold. So basically for me, I love being right, obviously, but as long as I get people on the train at a profitable price, and even if I'm a update early on somebody, I'm still fine with it. I'm totally fine, as long as don't jump off the train if it doesn't hit the first week. Like somebody on Cedric Mullins, 74 to 80. That was a gamble. I said he might get there. We'll see if they do another Adolis. Well, they didn't. But don't jump off then, because he's going to keep playing well, and then he gets to gold. One that I did hit well that not everybody was on super early. I think I already said it, Pablo Lopez and Trevor Rogers. I was on those Marlins very early. In fact, I was actually surprised that they gave Alcantara the gold at the same time. I think they just wanted to do the 3 Marlins at once, because if you look, Alcantara didn't really deserve it. And then what happens 2 weeks later? He loses gold. So I thought it was cute that they did all 3 Marlins, but I didn't really think that Alcantara necessarily deserved it that first time. So, we have a lot of hits. I have some misses. I'm not perfect. I had Framber Valdez going this week. He didn't go. Let's see, who else? Taijuan Walker. He didn't go. Anthony Desclafani. But like I said, I'm early on, folks. Stay bought in on those guys. I remain very confident on them.
And I got just 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
I don't know if you would like to share a success rate or if you keep it. If you have a percentage of, it's hard to, like, if you say a guy's going to go 68 and he goes 67.
Exactly.
It's hard, but like, how confident do you
rate.
tend to be when you make your picks? Like, are you sure, like, 50% of my picks will be right? Or is it even like a higher number than that?
If I could be so bold, I would say I'm probably closer to 75%. I feel pretty good. And basically, what I would consider a hit is if, like you said, if I say somebody's going to go to 67 and they go to 66 instead, I think that's a win. Like, I'm not trying to nail the number, especially like I said, with the guys going into gold. I don't care if they go 81. 80 is all we need. We're just trying to hit that gold tier. So yeah, I feel like I have a pretty high success rate of at least identifying the guys who will be upgraded. It's rare that I have somebody going for a multiple point upgrade and they get 0.
Yeah.
So
it wouldn't make sense, because otherwise you wouldn't have afforded them that 2, 3, 4 points.
Exactly. It just wouldn't. I'd be like, well, what did I miss there? Sometimes if I have a guy going 1 or 2 points and they don't get it, I overestimated, and that's fine. I've definitely done that before, but usually I have a pretty solid success rate of at least identifying that somebody's going to go up. Like I had Gallo. Now I won't count this one. I had Gallo going to an 83. They took him from 81 to 85. I just underestimated him a little bit. They went big on him, and I know exactly what I missed on too. League average is way down. So the fact that his batting average is still kind of blah, doesn't matter.
It was close to league average.
Relative to the league, it's much better.
Yeah, and
so
60 is the league average contact, I think, right?
Exactly. So they were able to boost him a lot more, and I'm totally with it. Like it was just a miss by me, but I respect that they put him up there. I don't think that they were wrong to do that. I was the one who was wrong.
And my very last thing, we could have a whole episode separately with you again or somebody else about investing strategy, period. So I don't want to get into the ins and outs of investing. The important things to note, like invest where you're comfortable losing.
Yes.
If you're not a big stubs person, maybe don't buy 100 golds you hope to go diamond, because like that's a big loss. There are very obvious things to talk about. But as far as investing and diversifying between bronze, silvers, golds, how do you personally divvy it up? Like, do you have some sort of like, oh, I'd like to do 40% golds and 30% silvers this week? Or is it all dependent upon like the player pool in that 2-week stretch?
I really am keyed in on silvers trying to go gold. Okay. And that includes a lot of the guys that I predict for 78 and 79, because then they're going to be the next golds. And I like to be in on the ground floor. I have a very patient approach. I don't need to necessarily hit that week on everybody. And there's a privilege there of having a good stub base. For those that are grinding on a smaller bankroll, I understand they want to hit that week because they want to build up their bankroll. So I'm definitely in a privileged position there, but I like to focus on that mid tier of guys either jumping from bronze into silver and then mid silvers going to gold. I like micro investing too. And the reason I like it is for things like we just had with the TA3. My last update, there weren't that many diamond candidates. I had Barnes and Albies. I missed on Gallo, like I said, and I thought Peralta and Springer weren't going to go, even though there was some love for them in the community. So my focus was turned on commons going bronze because their exchange rate was going to go up much higher. Like Lamonte Wade Jr. went from a 60 he went from a 63 to a 71. The amount of exchange points for that on Team Affinity 3 is a massive jump. Much higher. He was single digits. So I was telling people, this is your week to get a bunch of single digit cost cards that are going to go up, and that's going to make your exchanges much easier. There's 4 exchanges for each division, and I barely spent anything to do all 4 of those for all 6 divisions. So all 24 of those. So it all depends what you're trying to go for. If you're trying to strike it big, Obviously, you're looking at golds trying to go diamond, but you have to get in early because by the time the week came around, Albies was at 4,500. You don't want to invest 4,500 on somebody that's going to go down, because even if it's guaranteed, and he was about as guaranteed as it gets, that's 500 stubs. You can do much better by investing in Joey Votto, for example, who was 200, and then you're going to quick sell him for 1,000. So it all depends on the week in question. But if you ask, my general strategy is to focus on silvers going gold, whether that's this week or the next week. I have a sheet called the Hold for Gold sheet, which gives a 1 to 10 rating on silvers and their likelihood to go gold within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, guys, investing is not just for bankroll, though a lot of people use it that way. Like Paul said, Team Affinity, we're going to have more than we had last year. So you can keep holding guys who you think are going to go up in exchange value. And secondly, do your research. Not every 84 is going to go diamond. Not every 83 is going to go diamond. Like, correct, there were some stone cold locks this week, like Albies, like we said. I've been on the Jared Walsh hype train. I know he doesn't have the 3-year average behind him. I know his stats against lefties suck. I made the mistake of investing a little bit this past update in Jared Walsh, but I was also on the game the second the update dropped. So I was still able to sell him at a reasonable cost, so I didn't lose a ton of value. But make sure you do your research. Listen to Paul. Just go to Fangraphs and just live on Fangraphs or some other sites like that, where you can look up splits and things of that nature. Investing's tricky. I'm still learning the ins and outs of it. I hope this conversation helped you a little bit kind of understand how it works or the thought process behind a lot of this. And I thank Sporer for being here. So before I let you go, just let the people know every single place they can find you, the stream schedule, if there is one, just let the people know.
Yeah, they can hit me up on Twitter at Sporer. That's SPORER. And then on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Sporer. I stream 5-6 nights a week. I have a Discord that you can come in, ask questions in. I don't have an exact schedule as far as streaming goes because, sometimes I'm working a little bit later, but it's usually in the evenings. I'm mostly an evening streamer. I'll dip a day stream in here and there, especially this week because it's the All-Star break. I get to breathe a little bit. So I'm actually going to do a couple day streams. But yeah, if you have questions, I'm happy to help in any way I can. Now, I don't usually like who do I invest in as a question because you can watch my YouTube, which is I don't know if you have a direct link. Like I'm a kind of a YouTube noob. It might be youtube.com/PJS24. Let me see if that actually works. Oh, it does work. Yeah. So that's PJS24. I don't have Sporer. Maybe I should have gotten that, but you can check out my stuff there, or you can come in my Discord and ask questions. I'm more about the teach a man to fish than to just give him fish type of deal.
Correct.
If the first thing you do, because it says like first new viewer, first question. If the first thing is who do I invest in, I'm going to ignore you. Like, that's not how we do. You got to hang out, see what's up, talk through some players with us. I'm happy to help, but I'm not there to just give you the answer key. I want to teach you how to do it. So that way you don't have to just ask for the answers. So anyway, that was Rambly. Sporer on Twitter and Twitch. Come through. We're talking baseball all the time. So even if you don't like to invest or don't care about it, we're always doing baseball stuff.
And guys, as always, I will be streaming tonight. That is Tuesday night when you're listening to this, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, twitch.tv/kdjTV. We'll be grinding the event some more. I already got Cespedes because I've just been living on the game the last couple days, but we're going to be grinding the event, boosting some parallels and some batting averages. So when I play on Hall of Fame, I can stand to lose some batting averages on my players. That's kind of the name of the game for me. Also, merch, like I said in the beginning of the show, I'll have links to it everywhere. If you guys buy something, first of all, thank you. I truly appreciate it. Second of all, tag me in it on Twitter. I'll retweet, show the love. I truly, I don't expect you guys to spend money on me. Like I've said a million times in the past, I do this show for fun. I stream for fun, but I do appreciate the support. So, as I hear a giant thunder cackling in the background, I think it's time to end the show before I lose my internet connection. So, Sporer, again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Thanks, man.
Talk to you all next week.